Good afternoon, I'm Molly Martinez. We begin today with breaking news. Detention center officials tell us a few minutes ago, 30-year-old Kerry Komrosky turned himself in to authorities. The former Burleigh County deputy accused of stealing drugs and cell phones from a department crime lab had a warrant issued for his arrest for a drug patch violation. Documents from the court dated June 4th says Komrosky violated his 3 patch tests and he tested positive for methamphetamine. According to the jail roster, Komrosky was booked at 11:14. Our other top story tonight, thunderstorms barreled through the area last night, and it's looking like it might happen again. Let's send it over now to meteorologist Henry Blakes.
Hey, it looks like today is going to be on the dry side. There could be a slight chance of some thunderstorms later on.
All right, thanks, Henry.
You're welcome.
Today, the man accused of murdering Misty Kofelt behind a Bismarck Runnings is pleading his case to the Supreme Court. Morris Brickle Hicks was charged for the April 2016 murder, but he says his Miranda rights were violated. That claim kicked his case up the courts, but officers contend that there was no violation during his arrest. The North Dakota Department of Public Health is reporting a pipeline spill 15 miles southeast of Watford City. They say 200 barrels of produced water spilled at the saltwater disposal facility owned by Hannah SWD. They're blaming it on a pipeline leak. In state news, an audit is heading for the governor's office at the end of the month. According to the Legislative Audit and Fiscal Review Committee, committee members will look into travel expenses and state resources used by the governor's office. State Auditor Josh Gallion notified Burgum in March that he will be reviewing the office's travel spending. The audit comes after Burgum was criticized for traveling to Minneapolis to watch the Super Bowl from a stadium suite provided by Xcel Energy. Burgum later said he repaid Xcel for the costs related to the trip, which totaled almost $40,000. In health news, today, both Senator Heidi Heitkamp and John Hoeven announcing new federal funding for health care services in North Dakota. The grant will funnel $1.2 million into the Family Health Care Center in Fargo and another $238,000 into Minot State University. In a statement, Heitkamp said, the grant will work to help prevent Medicare fraud. By helping prevent fraud, we will be able to save taxpayer money and provide better services to the American people. Hoeven added, today's funds will help ensure that individuals in Fargo, regardless of income, have access to quality health care services. Also in health news, last year, heart disease experts lowered the target for optimal blood pressure from 140/90 to 130/80. Now a new study suggests stroke survivors could gain the most from the change. Researchers say the new guidelines could cut deaths among stroke patients by 1/3. There would also be a 67% increase in the number of stroke survivors who would need blood pressure medication. About half of all strokes are linked to uncontrolled high blood pressure. The CDC is reporting 2 more children have died from flu-related illnesses. That brings the total number of pediatric flu deaths this season to 171. It's the highest death toll for the season that was not declared a pandemic. One of the newly reported deaths was in mid-May, but the other was in early February. Officials say more reports could trickle in over the coming months. And there's an update this morning on 3 New Jersey police officers accused in the violent arrest of a female beachgoer. This video is from Memorial Day weekend, and it shows a takedown of a 20-year-old woman who had an open container on the beach. After reviewing the footage and interviewing the witnesses, the Cape May County prosecutor says the officers will not be criminally charged. Now that they have been cleared, all 3 officers will be allowed to return to normal duty. Union workers at UPS have voted in favor of a potential strike. At issue, how the shipping giant will expand their offer deliveries 7 days a week. On Tuesday, 90% of union members voted to strike if necessary. UPS and the union are negotiating a number of things, including wages, benefits, and work conditions. A spokesman with UPS says talks between groups remain intact. Still ahead on the Noon Report, time is running out in the search for survivors buried in ash from the Guatemala volcano eruption. Stay with us.
This is the Noon Report.
Following a story, Guatemalan authorities warn that the volcano of fire is showing signs of greater activity as the death toll from the devastating eruption over the weekend climbs to 75, with nearly 200 people still missing. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reports from Guatemala.
Many roads here in this part of Guatemala remain shut down as authorities fear there could be another eruption. Now, the death toll has risen to 75, and almost 200 people are unaccounted for. This is the so-called volcano of fire. We've already seen it belching some smoke this morning. So again, some residents here fear that there could be another eruption. First responders yesterday were forced to evacuate during their desperate search for survivors when there was some volcanic activity. Now, we have spoken with some victims that are searching for their family members. One 18-year-old says that he lost 9 members of his own family, including his parents. More than 3,000 people are in emergency shelters, and aid is flowing in from across the world. Several patients are also being flown to the U.S. to be treated for severe burns. But the desperate search for survivors continues this morning. Back to you.
A French professional distance swimmer has set off from Japan to San Francisco in an attempt to be the first person to swim across the Pacific Ocean. A spokesman said Ben Lencomte left yesterday from Koshi, Japan, northeast of Tokyo. He is expected to swim 8 hours a day on a journey that could take 6 to 8 months. He'll cover about 5,000 miles. Still ahead on the Noon Report, a mystery explosion tears an SUV to shreds in the middle of a quiet neighborhood. Now police want to know who's behind it.
With better rain chances coming to play once again next Monday and Tuesday.
All right, thanks, Henry.
You're welcome.
Investigators in Washington are trying to figure out what caused this SUV to explode. Police made an arrest late Tuesday evening in connection with the explosion. Neighbors say the explosion scattered debris around the vehicle, blew the windows out of a nearby SUV, and then threw flaming debris into a neighbor's front yard. No injuries were reported. Federal investigators are now on scene investigating. No word yet on the cause of that explosion. There's more Noon Report next. Stay with us. Turning now to the latest on President Trump's decision to uninvite the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles to the White House. The president holding a patriotism event instead as stars from other sports weigh in on the controversy. Here's NBC's Hallie Jackson.
Talk of a boycott building today, one league to another.
Way outside, another three.
Basketball stars LeBron James and Steph Curry fighting each other for the NBA title, but not on whether they'd visit the White House if they won.
I mean, I know no matter who wins this series, no one wants to invite anyways.
I agree with Bron. The way we handled things last year, kind of stayed consistent.
It's another front in what's become a culture war over players, protests, and patriotism. With the president pushing his point by turning a planned party for the Philadelphia Eagles into a star-spangled sing-along. He invited fans while disinviting the team itself to a celebration of the national anthem. Even there, a personal protest with one attendee taking a knee.
I want to thank.
No mention of the Super Bowl champs from Donald Trump, as the White House blamed its abrupt about-face on crowd size, saying too many Eagles players pulled out too late, calling it a political stunt. That's after the president initially pointed to players protesting police brutality and racial injustice by kneeling or staying in the locker room during the national anthem, something no Eagle ever did during the regular season.
The president doesn't think that this is an issue simply of free speech. He thinks it's about respecting the men and women of our military. It's about respecting our national anthem.
Is the president aware that taking the knee is about police-involved shooting?
The president has made his position crystal clear.
The fallout frustrating some fans.
They won the championship. They should be able to go to the White House.
And players like star safety Malcolm Jenkins, writing online, the decision was made to lie and paint the picture that these players are anti-America, anti-flag, anti-military. We will continue to fight for impacted citizens and give a voice to those who never had one. Philly's mayor more blunt about the president.
He has a big concern about crowd size and size of things. I mean, that's him. And he's a dysfunctional person that happens to be president.
Well, as of this morning, we are now less than a week away from a historic summit between the United States and North Korea. But what will that look like? What's the goal? And how long will it last? Tracy Potts reports live from Washington that there are still a lot of unanswered questions with just a few days to go.
Thank you.
President Trump describes it as a meet and greet.
A lot of relationship being built, a lot of negotiation going on even before the trip.
The State Department says there's one goal.
We will not pull back that pressure campaign until North Korea follows through on its pledge to denuclearize.
But the State Department is not in charge of planning the summit between the U.S. and North Korea. The White House is. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders tweets the location, a posh island hotel in Singapore. But with 6 days to go, few other details have been made public. Will they discuss easing economic sanctions? And how will eliminating nuclear weapons be verified?
It has to be complete, verifiable, and irreversible. And the pressure on North Korea has to be sustained.
Their intent is to put together a treaty that will be submitted to the United States Senate under the Constitution for ratification.
And still unknown, how long will this summit last?
President Trump has reportedly left open the possibility of this meeting going longer than just 1 day, and Singapore officials are planning for up to 3. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Washington.
In consumer news, JetBlue Airways is implementing new restrictions for passengers flying with emotional support animals. Starting July 1st, JetBlue will require passengers to notify the airline 48 hours in advance. The New York-based carrier will only accept dogs, cats, and miniature horses. Passengers must provide more documentation about the animal's health and behavior and provide a health form from the doctor's office prescribing the animal. JetBlue is not making any changes to its policies for non-emotional service animals, such as guide dogs. Also in consumer news, for the first time on record, the number of job openings exceeds the number of job seekers. According to the U.S. Labor Department, a record 6.7 million jobs were available in the U.S. during the month of April. That's up 1% from 6.6 million in March. That's the most since records began in December of 2000. With the U.S., there's no... Oh, sorry, stay with us. There's more Noon Report after the break.
I know. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found an old-fashioned way for you to say, ooh, it's so good. Yummy.
Henry, do you have any family recipes that you swear by?
I do. How about yourself?
Well, what are they?
I'll let you know one day.
We're not that good of friends yet, Henry. I work with you twice a day.
We are, but we're on TV right now. People are watching, so we gotta be careful. But hey, we're gonna start out with our My Not Skywatch camera. It's a gorgeous day in the Magic City right now. Not a cloud in the sky.